Sim racers, welcome to the eRacing Association, where you have the chance to win $5,000 in one of the best tournaments in all of sim racing. Green flag in the air.
Are you ready to reach the next level of sim racing? The eRacing Association's epic Omega Cup Series lets you win big.
Is he gonna throw the block?
Racing with ERA lets you compete for huge cash prizes, get exclusive merch, exclusive sim hardware pricing, and potentially turn your virtual dreams into reality. Feel the rush as you race door to door against sim racers just like yourself, all from the comfort of your own home.
Straight away, they're into the they're wrecking! They're wrecking!
Join now to get your membership and experience all of the excitement that the eRacing Association has to offer at www.eragaming.gg.
Celebration, he hangs on.
San Diego to host NASCAR, Naval Base Coronado.
When we learned it was going to be on the base, I was like, well, that's the coolest thing ever.
250th anniversary of the Navy and 250th anniversary of our country. Hands down, it was one of the best places we could be at.
Hey guys, I'm Indian Next Champion Dennis Hauger, and you're watching Drafting the Circuits.
Try me, and I'll probably end up laughing cause I never back down. I'm that chick with a clean ass whip. I don't need that shit cause I got my own now. I get hungry, I get tired of fussing, fighting, guess I gotta crack down. Don't mess with me, it's on everything. I'ma have to bring the whole city out. Try me, and I'll probably end up laughing cause I never back down. I'm that chick with a clean ass whip. I don't need that shit cause I got my own now. I get hungry, I get tired of fussing, fighting, guess I gotta crack down. Don't mess with me, it's on everything. I'ma have to bring the whole city out.
Bob Parker's Fox Sports. Is this validation at all for you as a driver?
No, one win doesn't change my career, not one bit. You know, I knew I was capable of it, and my team, obviously, I know they're capable of it. So, yeah, doesn't mean anything. I mean, I could win the next 5, or just win this one and be done for a long time. So it doesn't mean anything. And I feel like I knew I was capable of doing it, and it's all obviously just about putting it together. We've had great runs in the past, and people are gonna hammer me on my position I'm in, and that's fair. But I don't really care, and just keep working hard. And I really love racing, so it's just fun.
Does it mean anything to hold off 2 former Cup champions at the end?
Yeah, it's super cool. Ryan and Kyle, I have a ton of respect for them too. So to be able to win and to be able to race them is awesome. Honestly, I was just happy that the race was sick at the end and we were all sliding around and racing for the win. I think that was super cool. Hopefully put on a great show for the fans. And but yeah, super cool. I've always watched those guys a lot of my life on NASCAR. So to race with them is awesome. It's an honor.
Trenton Worsham, FrenchStretch.com. Ty, yesterday during our media availability in here, you said for Bristol you just had to hammer the hell out of it, and you did that on the last restart. How did you hold off those 2 guys on those old tires, and how hard were you hammering it on those old tires to not slide around and get to the wall?
Yeah, I had old tires, so I couldn't hammer it too hard, but I had to be keeping myself pretty within the grip and the reason. So yeah, it was cool. Obviously they started off really weird and just around the bottom, and then once the top got rubbered in, you could make speed up top, and the middle was always really slick. So honestly felt like a dirt track, so it was good to have that experience. But the bottom was really rubbered up and was really slick, so if you didn't hit the yellow line you wouldn't make the corner, especially in 3 and 4. So you have to be really consistent, have to be almost like a robot to compete with Kyle and Ryan, and fortunately it just was a great day. Car was really good and could do that.
Claire Belang, Dialed In Journal. I've been around a long time, so I've interviewed a lot of first-time Cup winners, and you obviously are confident in your talent, etc. But one thing that I remember most of them saying is, I now feel like I belong. When you walk into the garage, when someone asks you a question in a media scrum, you knew you belonged here. I mean, your grandfather is Joe Gibbs, but do you think there's any sense of you feeling that you walk in, drivers were up in victory lane, number of drivers were up there saying good job. Do you feel like the first win in the Cup Series is like, yeah, I'm one of them now? No,
not necessarily. I mean, I don't think one win's going to change my life or my career. I mean,
right.
might not have a great life after this. You know what I mean? Like, one win doesn't change it, but you know, I know those guys have a lot of respect for me, and I have a lot of respect for them. So it's not just coming up there and telling me good job. I already know that, and obviously, you know, it's super cool to have that. So it's an honor, and you know, one win is everybody's looking at when is he going to get his first win? When is it going to happen? You know, it doesn't matter for me. You know, we've been very and you know, we came back from pretty deep today and we won it, so super cool. But yeah, you know, it's an honor to be here. You know, staying after it, a lot of hard work, and to win it, super cool.
Mark Christa with Front Stretch. Ty, congratulations on the victory. You talked about the respect from your competitors. A number of folks seem like congratulated you today. How much does that mean to you to be congratulated by your competitors after this race?
Yeah, it's super cool. You know, obviously, like I said, those guys have a ton of respect for me, and I have a ton of respect for them. And to you know, be able to have that is awesome. And I always really appreciate. You know, I've grew up watching a lot of these guys in my career, and for them to come up and say that to me, you know, from being a young person, I feel like I wouldn't believe that. So it's super cool, and it's an honor.
The movie, news, television promos and trailers used in this production are protected by the Fair Use Act. Section 107 of the Copyright Act. 1. The purpose and character of the use. 2. The nature of the copyrighted work. 3. The amount and substantiality of the portion taken. And 4. The effect of the use on the potential market. Thank you.
Start your
Good evening, race fans. Welcome to Drafting the Circus, brought to you by Sinista1 Productions. My name is Frank Santoroski. I'll be your host for the next hour as we talk about everything racing. Listen, if you're sick and tired of hearing about the vice president picking a fight with the Pope, you've come to the right place, because we're not going to talk about that. We're going to go over this past weekend in racing. Joining me, Jessica Chezrony, Richard Youden. How we doing?
I think I'm on the wrong show then.
Doing well. I know. I want to hear more about the Pope. What are you doing?
Yeah.
Oh my. Okay. Listen, we are sponsored by the ERA, eRacing Association, Jesse Iwuji and Emmit Smith, NASCAR on Fox promoting San Diego 2026. Slingshots for Shriners coming up on August 1st. And that's a big event for Sinista1 Productions. So thanks to those folks, and thanks to Kevin Boucher, who was on the show last week, the voice of Seekonk Speedway. So, Jessica, I know you missed last week. You missed a pretty good show. Kevin was on. Then we had an epic trivia throwdown, which is three of us. So
nice.
Mm-hmm. Nice.
Did you embarrass everyone like you tend to do?
Richard did a little better than he usually does.
I did better than I expected, actually. Yeah, I was.
Fantastic.
Yep. Pleasantly surprised.
Richard did good.
Good to hear.
Thank you.
All right. So speaking of Richard, you picked Ty Gibbs to win at Bristol.
Oh,
and
I
picked Ty Gibbs several times over the last year and a half, hoping that he'd break through. And then, nobody else has tried picking him, but you pick him once and bam, the dude wins the race. So, yeah. So, I mean, that's a monkey off his back. This win has been a long time coming. I mean, he came into the Cup Series highly touted after a fantastic performance in the O'Reilly. I don't even know what to call it anymore. I guess
Yeah.
it was
It was the Xfinity back then.
O'Reilly now, yeah. So, but good to see him finally in the Cup winner circle.
Yep. Yeah, very good. It's been a long time coming.
How old is he? He looks like a child.
He's 22,
I think
23, I think now.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's not.
He's very young.
He did come into the Cup Series probably a year earlier than they'd intended with Kyle Busch leaving JGR. So he's been there a while now, and at some point last year he took the unwanted mantle of having the most Cup starts for JGR without a race win. So
yikes.
There was certainly a little bit of pressure on him there to get that done. And he's Bristol's one of those tracks where he's always been reasonably competitive and mixed it in the top 5. So yeah, really good to see him get that one over the line. And there was some good strategy calls there at the end, and he had to hold off Ryan Blaney and Kyle Larson on fresher who had fresher tires. And there was also a late race caution there, so we went to a green white checker finish, and a lot of pressure on the kid, and managed to come home with the victory. And I think it was the closest Bristol finish since 2010 or something. So there was certainly, him and Blaney were certainly dueling. I mean, in the middle of the corner, Blaney was ahead, and then Ty would get the drive out of the exit and come back to the lead halfway down the start-finish line, and managed to nick that one. So yeah, really, really good job there by Ty, and as Frank said, a monkey off his back, and hopefully we'll be the first of many more.
I mean, he just did a fantastic job holding back those guys for the extra laps that were added to the race there. I know some people, if they're behind, they like the overtime, but the guy in the lead really just wants to see that checkered flag.
That's the last thing he wants.
And man, Blaney almost stole that thing coming out of turn 4 in the last lap. But good job to Ty holding on there. So I don't feel bad for picking him all the times he didn't win. Now that he's finally a Cup winner, so because I knew it was coming. So otherwise, Carson Ostabar finished in the top 10 without wrecking everybody. So that was kind of interesting. Yeah.
What is going on with Blaney's pit crew? And they're performing very poorly. And why are they not making any changes? I guess is my question. I don't know. I feel like other teams, they swap guys in and out. If something's not working, it's not clicking, they would make a change. And I they talk about this every week on the broadcast, that they're just the slowest pit crew. And why are they not making a change? I don't get it.
Right. I don't know the specifics, but I get a feeling that's just not Penske's style. I think sometimes
Penske's style is winning, so I would think.
But they're not ones for pushing people under the bus. I mean, fundamentally, if you turn around to Blaney and say, right, you're getting Joey Logano's pit crew, and Joey, you're getting Ryan's pit crew. Well, then what does that say to Logano? He's like, oh, great, I'm not the number 1 driver anymore. He's got the better pit crew. I think it creates. I think the majority of the time you see it. There's 2 scenarios. One, when you have a team that's clearly underperforming and one that is performing a lot better, and then you make the pit crew. But the most common scenario, I think, is when you have it at playoffs. Where you've got maybe a 2-car team or whatever, and one guy's made it through into the playoffs and he's in the the playoff format, and the other guy who may have a better pit crew is not in the playoffs, then you'd make that swap to benefit the guy in the playoffs. But I think it's a little early for that, but it's certainly a concern, for Blaney, and it creates that anxiety, especially when it's very public, as it is, and that never, leaves a great taste in the mouth for the guys that go over the wall, and then the driver starts second guessing himself, and he gets agitated and anxious, and he may miss his marks on pit road, and it snowballs a little bit when it becomes so public. So
absolutely.
I don't know the numbers, You know, I don't know the numbers of their pit crew performance. I don't know where they are in the rankings, but it was interesting listening to Denny Hamlin's post-race podcast, which, you know, isn't quite as good as this one. But, you know, we give him his opportunity.
Yeah.
You know, he was saying that, you know, for his money, pound for pound, Blaney is the most consistent driver in the field right now. You know, he said even ahead of Reddick and ahead of Larson, you know, who would, you know, you'd put, you know, Larson and Reddick certainly up there. And, you know, he said, you know, and the other really good thing about Blaney, you've got to give the guy credit. He races clean. You know, you see, you know, and that was the reassuring thing in a way, watching those closing laps of Bristol. You know, he's not going to go in there and you know, move Ty out the way in an aggressive manner. You know, he's not going to stick him in the wall. He's going to race him fairly because, you know, that's how he you know, that's how he wants to be raced. So fair play to him, though. I think you know, he's got a lot of respect for that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So also in the news, kind of surrounding Ty Gibbs, is Chris Gabehart's name has come up again. Chris Gabeheart, who was released from Joe Gibbs Racing a while back, and said a lot of kind of very uncomplimentary things about the team dynamic. Accused him of nepotism. Said that Ty Gibbs was not held to the same standard as the rest of the organization, and as far as attending meetings and these sort of things. And Gibbs has been, you know, for his part, kind of quiet about it. But he kind of used this opportunity to win in the race to say that, you know, essentially just to say this guy's full of shit, you know. But, you know, at the same time, when Gabeheart was released from Gibbs, there's a restraining order in place that prevents him from doing the director of competition or, you know, duties for another team. So he's doing these more mild duties, I suppose. But the Gibbs is saying that he's violated the restraining order, and you know, I don't know if this is just much ado about nothing. Pundit's trying to make a story out of a non-story, but yeah, there's definitely still some bad blood between those guys, and but that's been dominating the news. Richard, what do you know on this?
I mean, I think it's, you know, I think it's people airing their dirty laundry in public. I don't know the ins and outs of it. I don't know, you know, the detail of it. But obviously, there's been a little bit of animosity got on there, and you know, obviously, JJ are well within their rights legally to protect their intellectual property and their contractual basis that these employees are under. But fundamentally, North Carolina as a state is a right to work state, so it's typically very, very difficult to you know, pass, you know, to win some of these cases that JGR are filing. And yeah, I think it's a shame really that it's detracted a little bit from what's been going on. You know, I will say this, from everything I've seen, and you know, it's minimal in the grand scheme of things. There's certainly no favoritism towards Ty. You know, we tested last year with at Michigan with him, and that kid was as committed as any driver I've ever worked with, in terms of getting, you know, his work ethic. You know, I remember the test we were running till 8 o'clock at night out there, and it got to like 7:50, and we just finished a long run, and we're like, okay, cool, let's pack up. And he's like, no, I want to do a qualifying run. And it's like, okay, cool. You know, that left a really good impression. So I certainly I haven't seen any of this, you know, favoritism. But, you know, obviously I only walk the halls downstairs. I don't walk the upstairs halls at JGR. So
yeah,
I can't comment on that.
But quite obviously, you know, every person in racing, most every race car driver, gets a lot of support from their own family, whether that be just a commitment, taking them to the go-kart track every weekend, or financing, or being a sponsor. Just in Ty Gibbs' case, it happens that his grandfather is a team owner. But because he's got the job, does that mean he's less of a driver? I mean,
No.
you can look all over racing and see the same kind of thing. Why was Larry Foyt driving an AJ Foyt car? Why is Marco Andretti driving for Andretti Green? Right? Was he less of a driver? Maybe, I don't know. Marco was pretty good when he started. Michael had a lot of help from his dad. Michael certainly proved his worth. Al Unser Jr. had a lot of help from his dad coming on. So. John F. Kennedy made his brother the Attorney General. Got them both shot.
Wow. There we go.
That's off
we really
topic.
are going off the rails here.
All right. So let's go talk about speaking of off the rails. Now, Jess, you did an interview with Frankie Muniz back in St. Pete.
I did. And I don't know if you can see my
being of your generation is a big fan of Malcolm in the Middle, which the reboot aired on Hulu this weekend. And Frankie Muniz was driving a special truck with a livery for the new Malcolm in the Middle. But unfortunately, all he did was put Malcolm in the middle of nearly every crash during the race. But
life is still unfair.
Yes.
per the theme song. Yeah. That was a real bummer. It was cool though to see, like he was racing there that night, the same day that the show had dropped, and so to put that special livery out there, I think was really special for him, to kind of be able to see his two worlds collide that way. And yeah, I don't know if you can see my shirt, but I do have a Frankie Muniz shirt from I think this was back when he was racing ARCA. But yeah, he made a comment after the race. He was doing the media scrum after he was released from the care center, and talked about the incident and everything, and then talked about their faces getting smashed in, and how they had said, oh well, we really don't want to crash, and he said, oh, but if I do, it would be spectacular. And then he said, and it was. Like, he thought it was really funny that their faces got smashed in. So yeah.
Oh my.
But that was a bummer.
Yeah. Well, the good news is the show got some very, very high ratings. So
yeah, I've only gotten to watch
the
first episode so far, so I really enjoyed it. And yeah, I mean, like you said, that's my generation, right? Like that was us growing up. So
yeah, you grew up watching that.
Yeah.
Whoever would have thought that Bryan Cranston would have gone off to be this horrible drug dealer,
right?
Later.
Yeah.
So, I see we're off topic again. So let's talk about Connor Zilisch then.
Yes.
What a drive in Bristol. Yeah, Jess, you watched it.
I did. I thought it was a very entertaining race. Larson was ripping, man. Like he was, and you got a feel for him because that was kind of the theme of his weekend, right? That he was just like dominant. He swept the first two stages of that race, and then ended up having to settle for second. Again, it feels like deja vu with the Cup race. Late race caution opened it up for a strategy call. Are you going to take tires? Are you not? And Larson stopped for tires, which I don't know. It didn't really seem like the tires were falling off much. I don't know. It seemed like an odd call to me at that point, to give up the track position and stop. And that left Zilisch with the track position, and then yeah, I mean the race restarted with like 10 laps to go, and stayed green the rest of that time, and that was a real battle there at the end. It was very exciting, and Zilisch was able to hold off Larson and win. So yeah, I know we've talked about before on this show. We're all big fans of Connor Zilisch, and it's been a shame sort of how his first full-time season in Cup has been going, but I think this was really a shot in the arm for him, to sort of get back to a winning way. But I thought it was interesting. I know we were talking a couple weeks ago, Richard, about like the that transition to Cup and like how different those cars are. And, you know, I mean, it's not like Connor Zilisch forgot how to drive. Like he's still obviously a very good race car driver, and yet you put him back in a Riley car, and what does he do? He goes out and wins. So yeah.
I mean, I think that just highlights the struggles that Trackhouse are having this season as an organization. You know, obviously there are, you know, the 3-car team there. You know, the best result has been SVG at Coda, which you can sort of take, you know, you can take out of the equation really in a way. You know, we know that the GM guys are struggling with their new body. I think they've only got one win so far this year. And that was Martinsville, which is probably one of the least aerodynamic dependent tracks on the circuit. So, you know, it's a struggle for him for sure, but I don't think we can judge him too harshly given what his teammates are doing and what the whole GM camp in general are doing. I believe they're actually pitching to have a new body for next year, which I think will take some persuading from NASCAR's perspective because they're not really meant to do that. I am too.
Gonna have a new body for next year.
Okay.
You know. Anyways.
I think my life would be far better if I was like one of those heads in a tank on Futurama. I'd be far happier if I was one of those little heads.
Oh man, yeah.
Oh man. So,
sorry, off topic again. Sorry. Yeah.
Alex Bowman back on the track after missing the 4 races he missed. Which was
4 or 5, yeah.
4 or 5. Turned out it was largely due to ear infection.
Yeah, but he was
read that somewhere. So
yeah, he spoke I think sort of the first time about what those symptoms were really like for him at I think it was at Coda, when you know that all sort of converged and he had the first symptoms of vertigo, and like, you know, he said he was like throwing up on himself, and he was really like concerned that like this it? Like, am I done? So yeah, that sucks, man. And I don't know, it's seemed quick, I thought, for him to come back that quickly. But
yeah, I mean, I think, you know, fundamentally, you look at that camp at Hendrick, and you do, I don't know when his contract is due to expire, but you would, if there's somebody else coming up through the ranks waiting in the wings, you would be a little concerned if you were the Bowman camp that his future, you know, he obviously came in a few years back when you know, Jimmy Johnson retired, and has done a competent job, but certainly not to the level of William Byron and Chase Elliott and Kyle Larson, you know, in terms of performances. And yeah, if there is a suitable replacement in the wings for you know, Hendrick Motorsport, and you know, Hendrick are never going to be short of a talent pool to pick from. Yeah, I'd be a little concerned if I was him.
Yeah, definitely motivated to get back in the car, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, and that's just not.
Well, just to your point about it being kind of a quick turnaround, be back in the car. I mean, if his symptoms were a result of you know, inner ear infection rather than concussion, that's certainly going to be a quicker turnaround. It's like, yeah, those concussion things are the things you don't want to mess with. I mean, my God, look at Simon Pagenaud, still hasn't been in a race car yet.
Yeah, gosh.
You know, so
yeah. Oh, I miss Simon.
Yeah, he's a fun guy. Yeah. All right, lost my
topic. Sorry.
So.
Yeah. Bowman's contract is up at the end of this year. So
yeah, so he really doesn't need to be sitting on the sidelines.
Yeah,
he's got to. He's got to make something happen on the track.
I think he was under pressure last year, you know, with not amazing performances, and now for this to happen, it's like, oh boy, you know, this doubles down on that. You know, that uncertainty.
Yeah.
All right, so we are going to Kansas next. One of your favorite places, Richard.
Yep.
I know. Yep. Your wife's from Kansas City, right? You're a big Kansas.
She is, yep.
Kansas City Chiefs fan. The Kansas track has been good for Toyotas. recently. Well, every track's been good for Toyota this year. So,
yeah.
So speaking of which, so my pick for Kansas is Christopher Bell, who incidentally drives a Toyota. Richard, who do you like?
I got Bubba Wallace.
Bubba Wallace.
Yep.
And Jessica?
I'm going with Kyle Larson, Redemption Tour from last weekend. I think
Redemption Tour, jumping off the Toyota bandwagon. Seen enough of them. So, all right. So Kansas next weekend. Let's move on to IndyCar. So Jessica, our 33 entries for the Indy 500. We're not there yet. You know, Formula 2 announced that they would indeed be adding a round in Canada on the Indy 500 weekend, which is going to put Colton Herta unavailable. So the 98 car in the Andretti stable, we thought would be up for grabs for somebody, you know, like a Linus Lundqvist or you know, somebody with a check out there. But yeah,
going to stay in the stable.
Opted to not run the car. They want to focus on the 3 cars they have, which isn't a bad thing.
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
They've got 3 very capable drivers who could all win the Indy 500. Two of them are Indy 500 winners.
Yep.
You know, and Kirkwood, of course, is their most successful current driver over the last couple of years. So I think there's no reason for them to take their eyes off of those guys at all and put any resources into a 4th car.
Yeah.
But that still leaves, you know, still 32 entries. Prima, we hope will be back. They're not back. They still talking like, well, we're not going to make the Indy 500, but we still might be back. I'm like, okay, I'll believe it when I see it, you know?
Yeah.
They'll be like Carlin and we'll never see them again.
Yeah. It sounds like they're still, you know, on the hunt for somebody to buy the team or a major investor to, you know, an influx of cash to get that team back up and running. But I mean, you know, that has been the case for what, 8-9 months now, and no one's come out of the woodwork yet. And I think, you know, I think that the charter situation has to have something to do with that too, right? Like, Prema does not, they don't have charters. They were not one of the 25 chartered entries. And so if you know, if you're buying that team or making a big investment in that team, like you're not investing in a charter. Like you know, you're
the charter
not
definitely would
guaranteed.
have added value to the sales pitch.
Right, because think about 2028 when the engine manufacturers get, you know, a factory car on the grid, right? If they don't change the current regulations around a cap of 27 cars, like that's, if you're Prema, then you're going to be trying to bump your way in every weekend, right? Like you're not going to be guaranteed a spot on the grid. And it just like that cannot be attractive to a potential purchaser of an IndyCar team that in, you know, a couple years time, like what you're purchasing might be completely worthless. You know, and I mean, you're buying, like you're buying their assets, right? You're buying the cars that they have today. But again, in a couple years time, those cars are going out the window. So then you're going to be starting from scratch anyway. It doesn't, the timing sucks. I think it just doesn't, that can't be a very exciting proposition for anyone who would want to get into IndyCar. Like, that's not the team they're going to want to buy. So it's a shame for Prema, you know, and definitely for those drivers. Gosh, Robert Schwartzman last year went and got the pole for the Indy 500, and now he doesn't even get to come back. Yeah, it's a shame.
So let's talk about the 33rd car, who may it be. I mean, I think of the different stories being floated out there, I think the one that makes the most sense is Catherine Legg in a 3rd entry fielded by AJ Foyt with a little assist from Roger Penske Penske, of course, owner of the Speedway and the series. So it would behoove him to have the 33 cars.
Absolutely.
We can't tell you how many times Tony George has funded the 32nd or 33rd car back when he owned the series. The last minute, Buddy Lazier would get a phone call and Tony George, hey, I got a check for you. So, but Catherine Legg does have some sponsorship money through the cosmetic company Elf. And Elf is, they've got a big campaign, Elf in women's sports. So that falls right in. They've supported her in the past. So although nothing's been announced, that's the one that makes it seems the most real, like that could happen.
Yeah, the most plausible. Like that, we seem to be the closest to accomplishing that. Anything else would sort of be a leap, right?
We're not going to. I don't think we're.
It's April 15th, right? Like,
we're not going to get a 34th car to bump,
Yeah.
So,
but
the bumping probably sits well with Jacob Abel.
Absolutely.
Was bumped last year, and
something that I heard is that Foyt would field this 33rd car, but maybe only if there isn't a 34th, right? Because what's in it for him to put another car out on track if one of his might get bumped, and maybe one of his full-time entries gets bumped, and then he's hosed in the championship.
His full-time entries are chartered.
Yeah, but that's not guaranteed into the 500.
They changed that last minute. That was the original plan, but they
Yeah. So, I can absolutely see that from any team owner's perspective at this point. Like, why am I going to put up a car that, if somebody else then also does, like I could end up getting hosed. So I get that. I don't know. I mean, I think having the 33 is important. To me, I would rather get to the 33. Like, to me, that's more important than having bumping, right?
Absolutely,
I can see the argument for, the bump day is what adds some of the mystique and like I don't know, spectacle to the greatest spectacle, right? Because there's no guarantees.
Bump day when one guy's getting bumped, right?
Oh, it's heartbreaking.
It's nothing like it was in the in the 80s and the early 90s when you'd have they had a really weird rule that once you tried to qualify a car, you couldn't try the same car again.
Oh,
so you'd have guys that would go up and down. They got bumped, so then they had to buy somebody's
dragging
backup car.
Chassis out. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
hilarious. Putting these. I remember seeing Miller Genuine Draft colors on a car with big Marlboro stickers on it when Penske was trying to get in, and they bought cars from Rahal. Still didn't get in. That was in 95. So yeah. So the one person getting bumped, I mean, it can be exciting. Harvey and Rahal going back and forth, bumping one another out. That was pretty darn exciting.
Yeah, I mean, it absolutely adds to the drama and to the show, right? But to me, like, when I think of the Indy 500, like, I think of the 11 rows of 3, and to me, like, it's just more important to get to that. I'm not concerned about losing bump day. I just want to get to the 33, and I think we will.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think we're close, and I would be thrilled to see Catherine Legg back, and Elf as well. They were a fantastic partner for her, and the activation that they had at the Indy 500 was unbelievable. Richard, what?
I just can't get over Will Farrell as Elf. Sorry. Every time I just think of Will Farrell.
Not quite the same thing. Not quite the
Different
same.
Elf. Different Elf.
Yeah. But you are not going to derail me.
Elf was a huge Formula One sponsor, for years.
Yeah, with Tyrrell,
Elf Petroleum, yeah.
You are not going to derail me from my speech about women in motorsports and how important and meaningful it was to have that activation at the Indy 500. It brought me to tears. It brought several people that were in there with me at the same time to tears. It was just very, very powerful, to see the story and to see that activation in what is primarily a men's space, and to see all the little girls going in there, at the race with their dads, like I was when I was a little girl. I certainly never saw a cosmetics brand that, held up a mirror to me and said, this could be you if you want to do this. Like that was not an option for me. So yeah, that activation was phenomenal. Elf is a great partner. Catherine is just, I enjoy her. I would love to see her back. I'd like to see that program come together. So yeah, we'll find out shortly.
Do they adhere to the 4 main food groups?
What?
In Elf? You can't remember.
Oh my God.
Oh God! Well, candy canes, maple syrup,
Oh,
and candy corn.
Sakes, Richard.
And candy corn. Yeah. All right. So
sorry. Been a long day.
So back in Arlington, the IndyCar Series introduced single car qualifying runs for the Firestone Fast 6, which is something they used to have all 6 guys on the track at once. They went single car, so there's no complaints of somebody on a flyer lap, coming up on somebody and having to slow down and throw their lap away. So that being successful in Arlington, they've expanded that to the rest of the street races, including Long Beach coming up this weekend. Yep. Jess, do you like the single car qualifying format on the street course?
I do. I think it was definitely successful at Arlington. I think the issue that a lot of people had with it at Arlington was that I think they went reverse order, right? From like the slowest car from the Fast 12 that made it into the Fast 6, he went first in the Fast 6, and that was Marcus Ericsson. That car obviously has an advantage because it has been idling on pit lane for the least amount of time, right, between the Fast 12 session and the Fast 6 session.
Is that always the case?
What are your thoughts?
So I've always been a proponent of, and you saw this when Formula 1 did single car qualifying, you want to be the last car out there because you want to be on the track with the most rubber and the most grip, especially on the street course that is traditionally, a very low grip track. So any extra rubber you can get on the racing line and the brake zones, you want to eat up. So to my mind, you'd always want to be the last car in qualifying.
And I think typically that would make sense. But one of the things that the drivers have been saying about the new tire compound that Firestone has brought this year is that it takes longer to reach that peak lap, right? It takes it longer to warm up, and maybe it's, lap 3 when you're out there rather than lap 2, right? So like they want those tires to be warm, and they want the car to be warm. And so it definitely played out in Arlington. And look, I mean, it has to do a little bit with luck too, right? And the weather and, whether the sun comes out or you've got cloud cover when your run happens. Like obviously that sort of luck is always going to be there. But it certainly seemed that the car that idled the least amount of time and was the warmest went first and had a significant advantage. There's no way Marcus Ericsson would have gotten the pole were it not for going first. So they have solved that they are now going to allow the drivers, the teams, to choose the order in which they will go out in the Fast 6. I know. So
they'll just sit there and go, I'm going to go first. No, I want to go first. No,
so
I want to go first.
The fastest from the Fast 12 session will choose their starting position first. So that guy's always going to say, I want to go first, right? Like,
Okay.
or I don't know, maybe he's going to say, I want to go last. I don't know. But it will be.
Who knows? He might say, I want to go fifth, just be different.
Who knows? But yeah, the being the fastest in the Fast 12 session will allow you first choice of the order in which you go out. So I don't know if that really solves the problem. A suggestion that I had heard floated was that you could speed up the process a little bit, and thus, like, the cars that went later wouldn't be sitting on pit lane as long if you sped up the process a little bit. And the suggestion was that once the current qualifier starts their lap, you could send out that next driver, right? Like, they would be on opposite sides of the track, right? There wouldn't be any
he
impeding.
could go ahead and start his warm-up lap, yeah.
Right, exactly. And so then that would cut down that time that each one of those cars is sitting idling on pit lane and cooling down. For whatever reason, that suggestion was not adopted by IndyCar, and the next qualifier will not be released from pit lane until the current one crosses start finish. So
the only problem I could see with that is that if the first guy out there crashes,
Rex,
and then the second guy's already on his time, now he's losing his run essentially. So
I mean, he'd be on his warm-up lap though, wouldn't he?
Why?
Unless you crashed on the in lap.
Unless you crash,
If you crash on the in lap, yeah. Well, yeah.
But he's already on his so
right.
I don't know.
So yeah, I we've only done this one time, right? So maybe changes will be made yet this season. But yeah, I mean, I think it's good. I think everybody got tired of hearing guys bitch about not having clean track.
People bitching about getting stuck behind Stingray.
I just cannot understand, every time there's, it's a 6-minute session or whatever, and everybody goes out and does this banker lap or whatever, install lap at the beginning, and then everybody comes in and sits. And then there's like nobody on track for 90 seconds of this 6-minute session, and then everybody goes back out and bitches about not being able to find clean track. Then don't do that. Like, go where they're not. Do what they're not doing. I don't know. We shouldn't have to legislate around that. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like we're solving a problem that the teams themselves are creating by just sitting on pit lane for too long. I don't know.
Damn, Jess, I know my cert box had gone missing. I now know where it went.
But it's fine because I'm also tired of hearing them bitch about not.
You're right, though. You're right. You're right. Especially on the road courses where there's a lot of jockeying for position on the track.
Yeah.
And it is purely that. The problem is, you tell a driver, okay, say he's out lap, and I'm sure IndyCar's the same as Formula 1. You just have to start your quick lap before the end of the session.
Yes.
So say your engineers, you come up with your optimum out lap to get optimum, tire performance, and engine management, and hybrid management. All the things they have to think about now is 90 seconds. So the drivers know, right, maximum 95 seconds before the end of the session is when they're going to send me out. They then turn around and say, right, 2 minutes before the end of the session, all right, we're sending you out. The driver's going to have in the back of his mind, oh, shit, I haven't got optimum track conditions. I'm not, oh, man. And it's that mental thing that they're just not quite there.
Yeah.
And, the interesting thing from the Formula One world, I remember going back 20 years when they used to do this, and they used to rank the qualifying order on the results from the previous race. So the race winner at the previous race would be the last on track. Again, typically with the fastest track. So they got like a double boost. And so sometimes I remember when I was with BAR, we had an issue where we wrecked out on the first lap of the race. And it took us like 3 races to get back to where we should have been in our qualifying order, it had such an impact because overtaking was such a challenge.
Yeah.
You know, you have the slowest track conditions, so you may have the 5th fastest car, but you end up qualifying 13th, and then you finish 11th. So then the next week you qualify 11th, and you qualify 8th, and then you finish 7th. You know, so it's a very difficult thing. I mean, IndyCar is probably not quite as penal as it is in, you know, back in the Formula One days in terms of overtaking opportunities. But
Well, I mean,
I think it's a difficult thing.
Yeah, I think it's telling that they're doing this on street circuits only, right? So that is clearly part of the consideration. Street circuits typically narrower, fewer passing opportunities than, say, like a Barber or a Road America. So yeah, we're still doing, you know, a free-for-all at the road courses. But yeah, just the street circuits get this.
I guess Stingray is more likely to bring out a red flag at a road course, isn't he, than a street course and a road course.
Stingray can bring out a red flag wherever. You take him to the local go-kart track, and he'll find a way to bring out the red flag. Probably. Sorry,
He'd wreck a shopping cart in Walmart. Sorry. I'll tell you one thing. He's an infinitely better driver than you or I, so we should shut up.
Yeah, that's fine.
All right. So next topic. There were several livery announcements that came out today. I mean, I had added this one to the topics. Mick Schumacher and Ray Hall Letterman is going to run the Liquid Death livery at the Indy Grand Prix. Keith's got a picture of it there. So Liquid Death, an energy-infused water beverage. I don't know.
Yeah, I didn't know what it was, so I looked it up.
It's best known for fooling police. Police thinks you're drinking some tall boys, and they think that's an alcoholic beverage, and it's not. It's just water. I don't know. So, but the livery is cool. The gold and black.
It looks really sharp. Yeah,
you gotta like that. It's a product that's coming out there, and you know, for their part, Ray Hall Letterman Lanigan seems to have more one-off sponsors than any of the other teams combined. So, I mean, whoever they've got hustling out there for sponsorship money is really making hay, because this has been, you know, quite a while. They've got several different liveries, which means they've got good amounts of money coming in. You know, they matter of fact, unveiled the livery for Long Beach for Graham's car, which is One Cure, which is a charity for pets curing pet cancer, something like that. It's actually a charity that's funded by the Graham and Courtney Rahal Foundation. And earlier today, Jessica and I were talking, and she asked a very good question: is like, how do these charities reconcile giving money to a race team for sponsorship? You know, when they're supposed to be, they're a nonprofit, but
right, things like this, and like homes for our troops or whatever that one is. I've just always been sort of curious, like, a charity as a sponsor, like, how does that work? Is the charity giving money, or is the team like donating that space on the car, you know, as a donation to the charity? So Frank had a great answer.
So here's how that works. Yeah, generally speaking, you know, if you've got a charity on the car, there is somebody funding that. So in the case of the Homes for Troops, Homes for Our Troops, on the Void car, that's funded by the parent company that owns ABC Tools. ABC Tools, of course, a longtime partner of AJ Foyt Racing, but rather than put their own name on the car, they put the charity's name on the car. They pay for the sponsorship, and therefore they can actually, you know, write off that sponsorship as a charitable contribution. Same thing with now One Care is funded by the Graham and Courtney Foundation. So I'm quite sure that one of, you know, Graham's primary sponsors, maybe Fifth Third Bank, maybe MyJack, is footing the bill. You know, when the Andretti cars had a Gleaner's Food Bank on there, that was actually funded by Gainbridge. Gainbridge has more money than God. So there you go. So that
makes a lot of sense.
There's a lot of interesting questions that, when you start looking into things, like one of the things that I always wondered about was if you have a driver that's a pay driver, like say they've got to bring money to the team in order to drive. So how does that driver get paid? You know what I mean? He's still got to buy his milk and eggs at the grocery store, right? He's still got to make his rent. He's still got to do this. But in a lot of those cases, like I was, let's just use Charlie Kimball, for example, who brought the money from Novo Nordisk to Ganassi Racing for a number of years. But actually, the way that works sometimes is that part of that deal, the way it's structured, is that so much of that money goes to the team, but there's a percentage of that goes to pay the driver's salary.
Yeah.
So it's not like these guys are bringing the money and handing it all to Chip Ganassi. It's actually a plan in place that they can be taken care of and certainly have, be able to live and not have to, bag groceries at the Kroger there by the Speedway. Yeah. So, which I swear.
Maybe that's the sponsor agreement. Maybe that's part of the agreement.
Yeah.
Could be. Yeah. Kroger's a sponsor, you bag groceries on the weekends. So
that's funny.
Yeah. So some of the other livery announcements were Pennzoil is doing a patriotic 250 years of America livery on the yellow submarine for Scott McLaughlin at the 500. They're simply adding some red, white, and blue and some American flags onto that, and make it a little patriotic thing there. There was another
nice looking.
Yeah, it's nice looking. Yeah, I mean the yellow Pennzoil car is beautiful to begin with.
Yes, absolutely.
So add a couple American flags to it, and you're just
Scott also posted a in progress shot of his helmet for the 500, and it looks pretty sharp too. The Liquid Death car I thought was interesting because I believe that Liquid Science is going to be on one of the ECR cars, which is a Java House brand. So we've got Liquid Science and we've got Liquid Death on the same weekend, battling it out on the streets of Long Beach. So which Liquid will win? Who knows?
Well, one's dead, so...
I was not familiar with that brand, and so I hopped on their website here before the show, and some of their flavors look really interesting. So I don't know, I might give it a try. I've said before, I feel like IndyCar just is like the fans are begging for consumer-facing brands, right, to come in and sponsor cars. Like I love to see a brand on these cars that then I can go out to the store and I can support that brand. And I do that. I love to support companies that support IndyCar. Marcus Ericsson has Allegra on the car. That's the allergy medicine that my little guy uses for his seasonal allergies. So we don't have much of it.
And then we've got Java House and Splendor in there now.
Yeah.
Those are consumer brands, yeah.
But just so much of the sponsorship in IndyCar is
Miller High Life
B2B.
tried to make a return until they got bumped. But they did sponsor, I think, at Road America. Sponsored Abel at Road America with a genuine draft car, I think, or was the Miller Light car.
Yeah.
So, and Miller is almost...
It's cool to see a consumer-facing brand on the car, and that black and gold looks really cool. I think that'll look nice.
I think any consumer brand just looks better. It has more recognition than any of these cryptocurrencies or these hedge funds, and all these companies you don't even know what they do. So
it just like I said, I when 76 was sponsoring Connor there last year, when I went out to they're not here in my area, but when I went out to California for the race at Thermal, which I know is a very divisive topic for the IndyCar fandom on the internet, I got gas at the 76 down the road because I want to support a brand that supports IndyCar and supports a driver that I care about. So, that's got to be a good return on investment for them, I hope. And I'd like to see more of it. And I'll go out and get me a Liquid Death next time I'm
all right.
down
So
at the
let's
convenience
really
shop.
quick. So, who'd you pick for Long Beach, Jess?
Christian Lundgaard. I'm going with the theme of revenge tours. I think he will want that win back from from Barber. That was so much stolen
It was
from him.
almost in his hands. Yeah. So, I mean, I've been saying all year long, Lundgaard's going to, be a race winner this year. Richard?
I went for a bit of a left field pick on this one that you may not have heard of this kid. A guy called Alex Palou.
Yeah, I don't know what you're thinking there, but who knows? He could. I mean, even a blind squirrel gets a nut every now and again. So,
he could shock us all.
All right, I went with Kyle Kirkwood, who's won 2 out of the last 3.
Yeah, also another just left field pick for Long Beach.
Left field pick. Yeah. So now that being said, something weird will happen, like Rosenqvist will win,
100%.
which I wouldn't mind seeing. By the way, I like Felix; he's a good dude. So, all right. So Richard, we got about 5 minutes to talk about Formula One, where there's not much going on. Matter of fact, there's so little going on that the pundits are making up news stories.
Yeah, I mean it's all pretty. I think the big thing at the moment in the news is obviously the Max Verstappen's seeming unhappiness, if you like, with the state of the union in Formula One. He doesn't like driving the cars. He goes off in a little strop and he goes and races his GT car and wins that and then gets disqualified. So the whole world's against him right now. But
poor guy.
Yeah, it's that's the big topic at the moment. And there's obviously a little bit of oil been added to the fire with Giampiero Lambiase, his race engineer and head of trackside engineering at Red Bull. Appears to have signed a contract to go to McLaren for the start of the 2027 season, I believe. Start of the 2028 season. So he's got another 18 months at least with Red Bull before he makes that move, unless McLaren and Red Bull can come to some sort of contractual agreement before then. But so that's I mean, race engineers move around. Performance engineers move around. These guys are very, very well paid for what they do. They do a very, very good job. They're very influential. The role of a race engineer per se is very similar to what you consider to be a crew chief in NASCAR, but they're only really solely responsible for the driver, not the rest of the team. They're the conduit. The race engineer in a Formula One team is the conduit between the strategy engineer, the tire engineer, the engine engineer, the aerodynamicist, and all these people that are constantly throwing information his way. He's the conduit of and filters all that information before he passes it on to the driver. So it's a pretty critical role, and they do have very, very close personal relationships. You have to have that trust. You have to have that respect. And obviously, the ones between Lambiase and Max is one of the better established driver engineer relationships. So it will be an impact on Max for sure. I think if that's a determining factor on whether Max competes in the sport past the end of this year or whatever it is, then I think it's just a confirmation that Max's heart isn't really in it if that's how he wants to play it. I think if he's going to walk away because of that, then I think something's not right. But I do think that it is a sign of bigger rumblings within the Red Bull organization. I mean, if you go back 2 years now and look at their senior management core, the guys that make the key day in, day out decisions, it's basically been gutted. And it's a complete new infrastructure. And these things take time to bed in. So I'm sure we'll see a lot of gossip, on the back page of the newspapers around the world, discussing Max's future over the coming weeks and months. Other little tidbits of news they've the FIA have changed some of the regulations regarding engine deployment or engine management deployment during qualifying. Again, it may make I think it was less than 1/10 of a second difference in qualifying trim. And it's not something you can use on the race. And normally this would just pass under the radar. It's just a new technical directive that the FIA have issued. And because we're in this middle of this, imposed hiatus, if you like, for the next month, they're always all of a sudden making huge waves about it. So it's
You're
a little
missing
bit
the
unfortunate.
biggest story in Formula One right now.
Okay.
Lance Stroll chipped fingernail.
Lewis Hamilton and Kim K.
Oh God.
We might have
So it's not going to be. It's not going to be.
might
So it's
have
not.
a new WAG in the Formula One paddock. That would be cool.
He's not. What's it? Because it used to be Kimye. So what would it be now? Kinlu?
Oh.
Kimlu's.
You're going to have to give me a minute. I wish you hadn't put me on the spot with this because I can come up with something. I'm going to have to think on it.
Frank looks like he's losing the will to live right now.
I'm just surprised she left Pete Davidson. I mean, isn't that guy a catch? Okay. On that note,
yes,
we're going to end the show before somebody brings up a proc rocket. So anyway, I want to thank you, Richard Jessica. I want to thank Sinista1 Productions, our fine producer, Mr. Keith Hayes. I want to thank Facebook, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spotify, YouTube. You can find us drafting the circuits on Linktree/DraftingPod. That's linktr.ee/DraftingPod. You find us on X at Drafting Pod. Go ahead and you find us on Facebook. Just type in the words "drafting the circuits." You'll find us there. So until next week, I want to thank the eRacing Association, Slingshots for Shriners, and NASCAR on Fox. Most of all, I want to thank you folks that tuned in and watched us tonight and every week. Until next week, good night, everybody.
Thanks for watching Drafting the Circuits. Make sure to follow Drafting the Circuits on Facebook, Spotify, Twitter, and YouTube. Drafting the Circuits is a Sinista1 production.